Hello, hello. Welcome in. We're here for our weekly alchemy message. We're a day off. I figured the new moon workshop was released at an odd time, and then it was really long, or at least it was not released like in our usual time window. So I thought that would give y'all a chance to see that, not have too much overwhelming content, and I needed a rest last night. I was pooped and I was needing to just let some stuff process because I couldn't get my thoughts around it. So sometimes it's hard to have the space and the time to do the spiritual process unless you just really force yourself to give yourself the window, or even, the times where you're kind of sitting and it's all coming up and you're like feeling like you're wasting time, but you're really not. So that's things that are, it's like you don't want to stew, but you don't also want to be moving so much that you don't give yourself time to reflect and process. So I needed that time last night. And then a lot of stuff came up this morning, and as a lot of people have been talking about, like just feeling like super emotional, and there were like psychic warnings last week by lots of astrologers that were like, the emotions are going to feel a lot more intense over the next few days. And I can feel it definitely. Particularly yesterday, I was just feeling like a real, like a flatlining. I wouldn't call it a rock bottom, but it was just a brokenness that was not even, like there wasn't even energy behind it to emote. It was just like I felt like a walking, like a ghost yesterday. And then today I had, the energy really moved, which is good. And so then after some real like emotional like expression this morning, then I happened to, like, when I went for my walk, instead of listening to music, I was really drawn to listening to the weekly energy boost that the Kabbalah Center does. And you guys can catch that on YouTube, actually. And if you start listening to that, then you'll already know some of the things that I'm talking about, and see the correlations with the weekly energy and our readings and how they coincide. So I'm always trying to get y'all on that Kabbalah Center. Such a good, they have such a good curriculum, a good way of teaching, a good way of bringing such depth into practicality. So anywho, I started listening to their podcast on my walk, and I was reminded that this was the new moon of Aries. And so that, I know that's confusing, right? So in the Gregorian calendar, we just had our new moon in Pisces. And so there's that, and that energy in the collective where you've got double Pisces energy with a new moon starting another cycle of kind of like stuff coming up, and but also at the tail end of Pisces sun season. And for some reason, the Gregorian new moon, or like the moon sign in the Gregorian calendar, is always like one behind the Kabbalistic Hebrew moon calendar. So simultaneously, that same new moon in the Hebrew calendar was the new moon of Aries. This is the seed of the energetic year, which makes sense because it's been woven into our readings recently, and I wasn't even making the connection. I just was like totally spacing on that. And so, or I realized it. I was like, the new moon of Aries is coming. It's the start of our energetic new year. And we talked about that, planting seeds. But what I forgot was about the 12 days of Aries. And so what that is the first 12 days, starting, the first day starts on the new moon of Aries, which was Wednesday evening, like early in the evening, at sundown. So that was starting day one, sundown from I guess Wednesday to I guess sundown today. Maybe that would count as like a day one. And so that day represents Aries energy. And the second day in the moon cycle represents Taurus energy. And the next day, I'm not sure if the sundown to sundown thing is right, but I just know that on the first day of Aries, they were counting it starting like the preceding sundown of that new moon, which would be like that around that time, because the new moon was happening around sundown, evening, early evening, whatever. So Wednesday, day one, I'm assuming. Day two would be Taurus, day three, Gemini, day four, Cancer, day five, Leo, and so on and so on and so on. So all the way through the zodiac. So day six would be Virgo, 7, Libra, 8, Scorpio, 9, no, it should be 10? Yeah, 9, Sagittarius, 10, Capricorn, 11 is Aquarius, and 12 is Pisces. So each one of those days, the challenge is to kind of evolve and elevate past our shadow nature with that sign. Like there is tikkun correspondences to each of the zodiac signs. And so each of the zodiac signs has a set of like strengths and gifts and what they're, particularly good at. But then they also have shadow sides, and not shadow as in hidden or like suppressed, but like sort of like negative traits. And so the key is that for each of these days, we are planting the seed, a seed level of energy for that month, for that whole month, for this year to come. So if you can do something that brings yourself out of yourself and is more sharing and using your own unique strengths to share with the world, and be less selfish and self-centered, and think about how your energy or your actions or how your plans and goals and how that affects others, as because Aries can sometimes get tunnel vision about what they want and what they're going after. And they don't think about they don't initially think about how it's making other people feel in the process sometimes. It's like they're the babies of the zodiac. So they have a lot of great traits. They're very energetic, very optimistic, very fun, sweet, and all that. But they can be babies. They can be, I'm an Aries, so I understand this, because sometimes I'm even trying to see something that I can't until, something helps me see it. So thinking about less about me, mine, and more about how can I show up in a way that is bringing light and goodness and bringing positive traits to add, positivity into the world. How can I use my unique gifts? How can I use my unique talents to contribute positivity and creation vibes, right? Creator consciousness, creation consciousness, constructive consciousness, cause consciousness, builder consciousness, sharing consciousness, loving consciousness. So, the second day is Taurus. And so Taurus can be stubborn, bullheaded, a little bit lazy. So it's like overcoming your, maybe stubborn, lazy nature. Again, sorry to my Tauruses, but I have a stellium in Taurus. So again, not saying anything that I don't know about. And it's true because too, the last couple of days, it's like been a real struggle, and that really ties into our cards, and you'll see why. But the opponent, the thing about Aries season, and we touched on this a little bit the other day, is that it is like the battleground with the ego, because you're fighting for your sparks of light and your blessings and your seed level of blessings for every month of the year. And so it's like you're the warrior and you are doing spiritual warfare to be positive and plant seeds of optimism and getting over those negative traits of that sign. Because once you get over the negative traits of the sign, then it's like kind of like when you become the chariot of a Sphirot, when you know, greats have, like, I mean, the patriarchs, right, have mastered those dimensions and those traits, they became the chariot of that trait. So it's like when you overcome those negative traits of the signs, you like harness those powers and those enhanced, you know, positive traits of the sign. Okay, so so we talked about that. So now I guess today that would make us in we're closing out Taurus. I don't know, you could think of them kind of overlapping too, but just be aware of that through the next 12 days. These are testing grounds, and each day is going to be flavored according to its corresponding astrological sign. So try to approach each of these challenges as you navigate them as asking yourself, okay, rather than wanting to be justified or right in the situation, whether it's right or wrong, or justified or not, or like whether I'm justified or not, how can I overcome myself and my egoic nature to reveal more light and transformation in this moment? Not just directed at self, but how can I bring that transformation into my interaction and relationship with life and others? Okay, so let's talk about the cards. So first we've got Virgin's Milk. And remember for us to talk about how in the weekly energy oracle forecast this week, we were talking about, we had the card that was the ego, and it showed the weeds growing up out of the skull. And so the ego, this is related to this card, comes in and tries to say, oh no, I got this, and doesn't allow, like, it doesn't empty the self and allow the creator to come through us and work that miracle. It's like we're trying to do all the work and we're not using any of our faith. We're not letting the creator, giving the creator we're not invoking the power of the creator, because we're not focusing our confidence in the light of the creator, understanding that it is we can try as hard as we can, but our efforts can be completely in vain and completely non-effective unless the creator wills it to be so, unless the creator blesses us with that energy. When it comes to like transforming ourself, even the thing that about Pisces season is that it often brings up all these emotions, and we're like, oh gosh, like we start to beat ourselves up because we're like, I thought I was already over this, or I thought I'd already, like, you know, repaired the situation or healed this thing or faced that issue. I thought this was behind me. It comes up again, and it's like there's this temptation there to want to like beat the self up about it. But really it's the gift in that moment is to say, okay, it shows us that, yeah, we did, you know, it's like I've done everything I can, and I can't do it alone. I can't truly change without the help of the creator. Right? And it's like, then you don't beat yourself up, because you're like, okay, do everything you can, and then believe that like the real magic sauce, the real miracle is when the creator, like when you understand that it's the creator that's going to change you, then you can start asking, you know, God for help in your work and in understanding and in seeing things differently, and not just forget to make that connection and carry all the weight of it on your own, you know, and feel tired and burnt out and bewildered because, you know, you're not perfect, right? So it's something that is very empowering in a counterintuitive way, and King David would do this in the prayer of Betsul, but it's like a self-emptying where it's like, I'm nothing without the creator. Only the Creator can help me. Only the Creator can transform my life. It's prostrating the self, and bending the knee. But it also, I think, takes a lot of the spiritual weight and pressure and suffering out of us wrestling with the ego, right? And trying to put all the weight on ourselves and the pressure on ourselves, knowing that it's like it would be a moot point, like it's a losing battle. So we have Virgin's milk, we have spring, and we have sparks of light. So Virgin's milk is this kind of naivete that comes from like an overconfidence that, but without experience, right? We'll read this from the booklet, but overall, that kind of like immature arrogance is the ego coming in, going like, I'm the one doing this, I'm taking all the glory. But then also that puts all the work and all the weight on the ego, and the body can't handle it, the soul can't. It's like we have to say, I don't got this. It's like when I used to watch like a lot of business webinars and marketing webinars and stuff. They would remind you to keep a curious and teachable mind and not just get it in your head that you know everything, that you've heard it all before. And the tendency is to do that. I do it myself sometimes, and I always try to catch myself doing it because I think about the scientists, right? Scientists are so intelligent and they discover so much because they operate under the notion that they're smart enough to understand, and make progress, but they're not so smart that they know everything. They're willing to be proven wrong. They're looking to be proven wrong because it expands the knowledge. That's the same reason why, like the Hebrew sages would expound upon the knowledge by arguing Torah, by talking and debating. Right? It's like that difference in perception and opinion brings the discussion out, and it becomes multidimensional, and you can see where, like, okay, this is more truth, this is maybe misinterpretation, this might be misunderstanding, or this might be ready to be expanded upon or evolved. Like, it brings out things out of the shadows so that they're not just kept hidden, but they are brought out to be addressed and reformed or reshaped or renewed or what have you. So we have Virgin's milk. We have the spring, which again, this is that we are literally in the first day of spring tomorrow. And this is the spring and the beginning of our elemental year. And so there's new life happening, new energy, new sparks of light wanting to come in and be revealed in this new cycle that's starting now. That's why it's important that we don't let our naivete or our denial or our unwillingness to see something or to penetrate deeply and stick with it with ourselves would rob us from planting the greatest seeds of potential for the year to come through our consciousness, but also through our action and through our own transformation. And then we have sparks of light, which is like it says, it's like that primordial spark of the initial experience when we, the vessel, receive the light of the Creator and receive that energy and receive that divine inspiration and guidance. It comes through first as like a spark, right? And all of these sparks of light make up our soul. And so when Adam and Eve initially had that fall from the garden, the opponent captured like this specific number of sparks of light from us. And the process of tikkun, correction, as a collective, the tikkun olam, is to recapture those sparks of light that were taken. And so we get to take those back and reclaim them, whilst also breaking shells of darkness called klipat, which build up over time due to our negative consciousness and our negative actions and our negative experiences. So we break those shells, revealing the inner light that we already have, and then we also regain and recapture the sparks of light that were lost. So every holiday that we do ritual in the Hebrew calendar is all about collectively recapturing those sparks of light, the Tikkun Olam, and getting closer and closer back to the union of the Creator, and consciously planting seeds, right, for new life and new cycles. So interestingly enough, underneath, and I almost knew this was going to be the card, underneath Virgin's Milk, we have the Fool reversed. Underneath Spring, we have Queen of Cups, which, okay, so one of the things I was going to say when we were at the beginning of the video, or earlier in the video, was that, you know how we were talking about the Gregorian moon cycle versus the Hebrew moon cycle. So in a way, we've got double Pisces back to back, but then we also can think of us as having like double chance in Aries, you know, so on and so on. So we have the Pisces new moon at the end of Pisces sun season, according to the Gregorian calendar, which is simultaneously the Aries new moon that's starting the elemental year for the Kabbalistic Hebrew calendar. So it's almost like this Pisces energy of all of the sort of simmering that was going on throughout the month of Pisces is kind of like coming in to mentor us and to be our guide and helper and assistant as we go through the first 12 days of Aries. It's going to help us. This is all the things that we've been reflecting on. I'm helping you as you navigate these days. It's like the advisor to the warrior. This is how we win this battle. This is what we've been planning. This is what we've been seeing. This is the intelligence that we've been getting. So this informs us how to navigate those first 12 days of Aries and see the parts of ourselves that have been hidden, that have been coming up, and making those connections. Love that. And so under Sparks of Light, we have Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords, it's like something wants to rob you. Something's trying to steal something. Something's trying to steal your light, right? The opponent is trying to use our ego to do its trickery, to do anything to get us off track so that we spoil our first 12 days of Aries. And I mean, I'll be the first to tell you, over the last couple of days, I felt challenged. Like last night, I needed rest. I needed to reflect, and the sadness that took hold of me, you know, the day before, or the malaise or whatever it was. It's like, you know, I'm glad that I didn't completely lose consciousness, because I knew I could see myself from the outside and I could feel it, and I was aware of like, oh God, like I hadn't been reminded of the 12 days of Aries yet, but I was aware of like what a low place I was in, and I was kind of observing it from the outside, and I was trying to get back to the right state of mind, trying to get myself in the right state of consciousness. And that's what they say. If you can at least end every day having gotten yourself back into that right state of consciousness before you go to sleep, then that day was somewhat of a success. It wasn't you weren't totally off path all day. Like if you can, and that's why the Kabbalah suggests, and Judaism in general, that at the end of the night before you go to bed is a great time to reflect on the day and do a self-inventory and think about how you can do things from a purer place, or from a more intentional or impassioned place, more focused, with intensity and energy. You know, how can you improve? What would you have changed about how you handled or showed up in the day? And that's why Moses was the highest servant of God, the most elevated soul, because that's what he did. He challenged himself every day to self-evaluate and push himself towards transformation. So what the opponent, new level, new devil, sees the light here, and just like from back in the garden, that snake wants to steal those sparks of light. And these, look, it's like the sparks of light are represented down here in the eggs and the shell, the klipot, right? The Satan doesn't want us to get our light back. He wants to keep them in the shells and keep them to himself. And so he uses our ego to either puff ourselves up and think, oh, I've got this. Like, I don't need to check in. I don't need to pray. I don't need to, do my Bible study, or it's okay if I, skip it, or, hop right over like your emotional, storms coming up without really looking at what they mean and what they're trying to tell you, right? It's like spiritual bypassing, like trying to smooth over the situation without ever really acknowledging what went wrong or what went off, right? So something about not being honest with the self, or even as far as to be dishonest with the self, trying to maintain plausible deniability or willful ignorance, or not looking at something, or just getting so distracted that you forget to look, or that you think you're looking but you're not quite, you're missing it, you're still on the surface, you haven't gone deep enough. Something is yet to be revealed. So I wanted to go back and read some of these cards because they had specific messages, I think, from their booklets that I thought were really helpful. I'm going to start with the Virgin's Milk. So this is innocence, naivete, and purity. In alchemy, the Virginis, or lac virginis, is a mystical substance, supposedly coming from, it would be lac virginis, like lactose intolerance, is a mystical substance, supposedly coming from the virgin's breast. The alchemist asks, how can it be? How can milk come from one not carrying a child? That is precisely the nuanced teaching of lac virginis. When studied as an alchemical concept, it points to the lack of awareness or experience that the alchemist would rather not reveal. Yes, this milky substance is a symbol of purity and innocence, but its shadow side is naivete and even denial. When the Virgin's milk appears, discernment and honesty must be applied to the work. Is something being glossed over, rushed, or presented as perfect? There are likely complexities that need to be addressed so the alchemist can gain the maturity to handle what's next. And so the Fool reverse from the Tarot of the Apprentice says, from the reverse key, have you made the right choice? You could be wrong. If discontented or lacking in motivation, why not review things to date? If discontent is all you know, check back in time, it will show. Whatever is causing concern, don't brood about it, but have the courage to discuss it. Be strong and listen to your inner voice. Don't listen to others at this time. Before you make your move or your next move, are you happy with things so far? All right. So just not rushing ahead and keeping yourself in like a bubble and a shield, but taking that help from Pisces and all the reflecting. And even if you didn't feel like you got any real solid revelation from that time in Pisces, this is when it's gonna, I think, come to fruition over these 12 days. Because even for myself, there was just a conversation, like me and my mom called me earlier, and it was like activation button. And then kind of going back over that conversation, and reflecting on it after feeling really emotional about it, getting, off the phone. Like, I tried to pause and navigate it the best I could without kind of compounding damage. But I really didn't know how to pause and then proactively meet the situation. I maybe skimmed by with C plus B. So, but I went away from it. I expressed all the emotion that was coming up in kind of an abstract way. And then I walked and listened and found the 12 Days of Aries recording. And I was like, oh, wow, here it is, the big kickoff. Like, this is it. This was totally part of that test today. So, but I think being on the other side of it, it's like, okay, well, I think that if I can give it a little more time, I can get more clarity. And that weekly energy boost talking about the new moon of Aries. So go to Kabbalah, the Kabbalah Center or Kabbalah.com. Theirs is the red and white logo. But you would see like Spiritually Hungry podcast. That's Monica and Michael Berg, the heads of the center. And then the weekly energy boost has its own playlist, and you're going to look for their most recent episode. It's from like today or yesterday, and it's the new moon of Aries. And so there's various speakers that are on the show, and they're all talking about like food for thought, consciousness to have as you go into this 12 Days of Aries. Okay, so thinking about all that, giving yourself time, and then let's read a traditional interpretation of Queen of Cups, because that was helpful too. So sensitive lady who relies on her intuitive ability rather than common sense. So that reminds me. Okay, so one of the things about the ego is that, and this is something that I happened to, when I was processing stuff earlier, something was just like, open Instagram, and I was praying. I was like, I need help. I need direction. I need to perceive this differently. Just please show me how you want to see this. And I had an instinct to open Instagram, and I was like, am I just like looking for a hit of like dopamine right now? Like, what is this? And the first video that came up was Ruth Namaz, one of the astrologers from the center, the Kabbalah Center. She was literally talking about how the ego, Aries season, is triggering the ego, the head. And the challenge is to be thinking, oh, I need to defend myself. I need to speak, set it straight or whatever. And it's like that egoic way of waging war on each other rather than waging war on the Satan, on the opponent inside. So she said logic, which is attached to the ego many times, will tell you, hey, you need to speak up right now, defend yourself. And it could be an impulsive, trap from the ego that could lead to destruction. And certainty beyond logic would pause and reconsider and consider how I can reach for consciousness that allows me to bring positive transformation to the situation and reveal light by restricting my ego, not satisfying it. Okay, so woman in her maturity, the lady, this lady with perception can see ahead and believe. Awaited pleasures and success are now coming due, which I think is answering this feeling of just feeling unsettled, restless, ready for feeling new things coming, but feeling like just fulfillment delayed, like feeling that longing that is just continuously unquenched, hope deferred. I can't remember how the rest of that goes, but it's maketh the heart no, I can't remember the right exact words, but so yeah, the reassurance that good things are developing and long-awaited pleasures and success are coming due. So don't let that despair set in. Don't lose hope. And then the last thing, can be difficult to approach, but will help if you win her confidence. So I'm exactly that way. Like, I'm difficult to approach, but if like I've got you under my wing, you know, kid, we're doing this, right? If you win my trust, then you're good. But if you show me your true colors and you're this, you're out, because I can't unsee it. So I think that's, maybe I'll read Seven of Swords. That was the other one I wanted to read. Okay. So, things may not work out the way you have planned. Have an alternative way to go, for what you wish may not be so. I mean, that's just common sense right now in the world. Everything is so in flux and up in the air and really, really wild. I mean, all of everything attached to this Hormuz Strait being closed, it's affecting a lot that's going to be affecting like the whole world, because there is fertilizer or oil. The oil that's going through back and forth through there is used also to make ammonia, which is used in fertilizer, and it's going to affect the growing season of many, many, many countries. And you know how exports and imports work. So they're really worried that there will be famine in 2027, and it's just going to be widespread. So be aware of that. When you think about maybe buying, you know, extra bags of rice here and there, or I don't know, it could be, you know, going up for a while, or things might be short in supply for a bit. Hopefully we will figure out how to solve the situation together as a world. But for now, it poses a great concerns that strait is closed for so many things that the whole world depends on. So, have an alternative way to go, for what you wish may not be so. Upset plans, not working out as expected. One thing after another. Nothing seems to be going right. Sheer bad luck. Oh my God. So this is the second time the phrase one thing after another has come up in our readings this week, and one battle after another had won all those Oscars. I think that's really funny. All right. Oh, yes. And next to the Fool, which the Fool had come up in the reading as well. So next to the Fool, it means that you are too changeable, flippant, and inconsistent. Need to be more positive. And so that I've been a prime example of that in my energy over the past few days. I haven't been super consistent because it's taken me longer to get going in my day because of this. I wouldn't call it depression, but there's definitely something, because I think that depression is like, and I've had depression before, but it's more, I think this is more concentrated to this process rather than a general thing that has taken over you for a period of time, even chronic periods of time. But this feels process oriented, like it's part of the moving process and it will pass, but it's staying on top of it and not letting it take down the consciousness and just continuing to bootstrap up and, face it and get with it and give yourself times to do that and surrender to it, but also get back on it and pull yourself out of the quagmire and get your blood flowing and get that passion back and that vigor and that intensity before the day ends, right? And don't let these days go by and waste your opportunities to take material action as well. That's the battle with being in depressive moods. It robs you of positive and healthy productivity. We don't want to tie our value and our self-worth to our output or our productivity, but we know that when we get in a super low state, we're also out of balance because we aren't doing the things and taking the material actions that contribute to moving the needle of our lives forward and our goals forward, and also having a sense of satisfaction and feeling good and having good self-esteem because you're looking after yourself and you're taking care of yourself and you're not abandoning yourself. So it's like this battle and tug of war, I think, staying aware and present and conscious and self-realized when these things are happening in the midst of it. But don't let the deception of the opponent steal these sparks of light, right? Because that is exactly like when we think of ourselves. I think it's so helpful to think of ourselves inside of a video game, inside of like Mario Brothers, or at least Mario the original, because he's just going through this land, these different levels. And there's all these little characters that are just constantly coming at Mario that he has to jump over, squash, or navigate around. And there's all these challenges at every different level, right? And it's just incessant. But when we kind of try to take the emotional sting out of it by trying not to take it personally, and when we see it as, okay, these are tests coming at me. How do I navigate this? How do I pass this test? Because the opponent, the object of the game of the opponent is to steal my light. The object of the game for me is to not only protect my light, but recapture the sparks of light that I've lost by revealing the greater parts of my soul and restricting the negative inclination, my evil inclination. All right, and then transforming that evil negative inclination, or just like that flesh consciousness, that laziness, that, wanting to have instant gratification and things coming easy and just leaning on our, natural nature or whatever, easy nature, and not wanting to grow beyond what comes easy or naturally to us, but push ourselves to expand and to become more well-rounded and more evolved. That desire, it's an effort as well to keep making that effort. And so the opponent is always trying to even just like extinguish our desire to even want to make an effort to reveal that light. So when we do reveal that light, though, it really releases our spiritual power, the power of our soul. And it's like we can channel blessings and miracles like we couldn't before, we wield more energetic authority when we reveal those sparks of light. All right, y'all, that's all for tonight. Don't forget 12 days of Aries. And the audio for today's reading and the layout I will add at the end of the video. Man, we just got moving and grooving and the spirit was moving. All right, y'all. See you tomorrow for our weekly reflection message. Ciao. There is a blind spot that we are meant to discover as we complete Pisces season. It's what is keeping us looping in the same spot, resulting in growing discontent. Is there something we are in denial about? Something we are not being honest with ourselves about? A new cycle is on the verge of budding. We must take this time to turn inward and listen to the wisdom of our heart. What does it feel? What is rooted behind this feeling? We cannot truly be a light to others if we neglect ourselves. our own spiritual work, our own basic physical and spiritual needs. The opponent is using our ego to rob us and trick us and swindle us out of this new light that wants to be magnified by our soul and expressed through our lives. Can we trace that call that's coming from inside the house? Do not lose hope. Hold on to those sparks of light.